why don't you hit me with some of these questions?
Okay. First one is not a question, it's a comment, but I
Yeah.
found it quite funny. They said we could hear Linus being loud in the tested.com video. Um,
Okay, I was
that's
trying.
hilarious.
I was trying. We had so little time and it was a really echoey room. I even saw people comment on the video that I sounded more quiet than usual. That was because
I could tell you're holding back a
I
little
was
bit.
trying to
Yeah.
be respectful of the other people that were shooting, like, I, 5 meters away, if that. So there were four of us in the room, and I was doing my best, but there was no such thing. I mean, other people were talking through mine as well. I just happened to have my mic close to my mouth, so we were able to post process that and were able to mostly get rid of it. But we all just had to talk over each other. We didn't have a choice. We had an hour and a half hands on with, like I said, what I think is the biggest hardware release of the year. So
Yeah.
I did my best. I did my best.
Just an observation that I had was, first of all, it felt very old school. You like scrambling through what felt like a very large hotel suite with a bunch of tools, trying to get all the information you could. So that was a fun kind of nostalgia trip
Oh,
watching that.
yeah, thanks. Well, it was
But
me and Ed, right? That's
yeah,
as old
that
school as it
too.
gets.
Yeah, and
Show
hearing Ed
coverage.
like chirp about stuff from the background was great as well. Like, yeah, that was actually very cool. I enjoyed it a lot. But
Yeah.
how many? I know you showed a few. Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't test the controllers, you couldn't do capture, that kind of stuff. How many things and what things were you not able to do, whether it was time or
Sure.
because they didn't want you to?
Well, one of the things I wasn't able to do due to time was, I mean, they limited what games we were allowed to show. And
Yeah.
I asked them why, because, we've run into this before at trade shows, right, Luke? So I asked them why, and they said, you know what, honestly, we don't think, or we don't know that there's any legal reason that we couldn't get away with, you're an independent media outlet, whatever game you installed on it, what control do we have over that? Like, they said they didn't know that it would actually be a legal problem, but for them, it was more about the relationship, managing those relationships.
Probably a
This
big
is
deal.
something
Yeah.
they disclosed during the meeting, but it didn't make its way into the video because it wasn't about the Steam Deck. But Valve has literally hundreds in this engineering. I think this is an what is it? I made some notes. You know what? I don't have them here with me. It's Engineering Validation 2. These are EV2 samples. And they are considering these, as far as I can tell, dev kit ready. Those units arrived literally 2 days before we got there, and they loaded a new build on them at almost midnight before we came in and filmed in the morning. And like, Luke, as a developer, how
Yeah,
crazy is
that's
that?
psycho. That's absolutely psycho.
To put a new
Uh,
software build on something the night before you show it
Well, they
to.
could have rolled back, but that is insane. That's cool though. I don't know. I like those kind of pushes when you're doing
So,
stuff at midnight before the day. But anyways,
so what
I
it
do
came
have other
down
questions.
to. Oh, I'm
Okay.
not done. I didn't even answer the question yet. So what it
Okay.
came
Yeah.
down to was respect. Valve wanted to
Yeah.
respect those developers and give them a chance to get their dev kits, which were in the basement of the building we were in apparently, get their dev kits in the mail and see their game running on the Steam Deck. Give them some time to tune it, to target it, right? And then show the game running on the Steam Deck, because no
Make
developer
more friendly
wants.
controls or whatever
Yeah,
else.
like, I don't think about it this way because I'm a hardware enthusiast. That's my jam, right? So I just think of games that I don't play as benchmarks, you know? Like, to me they're if I'm not into them, it's just how valid of a benchmark is it? Is it reproducible? Does it have a built-in tool? Do people actually care about this? What does it tell us about this piece of hardware when we run this game on it? Does it tell us how good the CPU is? Does it tell us how good the GPU is? Does it tell us both? I just think of games as kind of benchmarks. So to me, it's like, well, who cares, right? I'll just run it on it and it runs as well as it does. And all I care about is the relative performance to other hardware. But no, okay, I can see from a game developer's perspective, if their game is running choppy, they feel, bad. That's
It's
not
not
their,
good. Yeah.
yeah, that's not their game being enjoyed properly. That's not what it's about for them. That's their art. And so Valve got specific permission from every game developer whose game was pre-installed on those consoles to include it. and it was very gracious of so many of them to allow their games to be included. There were like 30 games on it. So that's another thing that I didn't get a chance to cover. I didn't even get to scratch the surface of the games that were installed on it. And in fact, the only reason that I focused on Doom Eternal, CSGO, and Witcher 3 was because I needed CSGO to run my display latency test. And then Doom Eternal and Witcher 3 were games that I happened to preload on my Aya Neo, which I really wanted to show side to side because I had no idea what games were going to be there. And Valve did not allow me to plug my own Steam library into the Steam Deck because I had games that the developers had not authorized to be shown. So that's the whole story behind why I showed the games that I did. I had some people upset that I didn't focus enough on the touchpads. I had Anno preloaded. I was like, am I going to be able to install Uplay on this thing? Can I run Anno?
Yeah.
Get the touchpads going? Like, I was ready, guys. I was ready for it. I wanted to do it, but I just didn't have enough time. Those are things that I definitely want to explore in follow-up content.
One of my questions is specifically about Anno, but I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I noticed Witcher 3 as well, and I actually forgot about that during these notes, but I saw Doom, I saw Counter-Strike, I saw Transistor. All of those games are notoriously well-running games.
That's true. That's true, but Doom Eternal was running at medium. So native resolution medium. I wasn't even making use of more modern features like dynamic resolution scaling, for example, that are just, whether the hardware purists like us like it or not, those are just going to be part of gaming moving forward. Upscaling, dynamic resolution scaling, things like that. And so, demanding games like a Dirt 5, for example, that runs on the Aya Neo at about 30 FPS at low. That means that I would expect the Steam Deck to hit 40 to 45, maybe even a little bit more, because I suspect that we're memory bandwidth bottlenecked at that point, and the Steam Deck should have more muscle to flex when it comes to heavily like GPU memory bottlenecked situations. I'm really bullish on the performance. I think that we might have to accept dynamic resolution scaling. We might have to accept turning down in-game details. But I mean, if Low Spec Gamer has taught us anything, it's that until you prove it doesn't run, it'll run. And there's a lot more hardware in the Steam Deck than he's often working with. Like, don't kid yourself. This is a powerful little machine.
What do you think about this? I saw this comment in Flowplane. I'm a little disappointed I didn't think about it myself. But what do you think about the viability of just like strapping one of these to your back and plug it in an index?
If I had thought I had time to set up the base stations, I would have taken my index down and tried to play Beat Saber on it. Don't imagine for a second that you're going to be playing a game like Half-Life Alyx at full desktop gaming PC fidelity, but I don't see any reason why something like a Quest 2 plugged into this thing couldn't work, or really, I mean, any other VR headset. I don't see any reason why it couldn't play Beat Saber.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned that it felt good in your hands.
It does.
Even with the additional weight, it's no problem.
Yeah, it feels good in the hands. The extra size helps because it's a little less dense and it's also well balanced. Like, that's sometimes more important than the actual weight, like what the balance of a device is. I've reviewed phones before that are exactly the same weight as another phone, but they're really top heavy, so they kind of always feel like they're going to fall out of your hand when you're holding them. It's so important, and I think they did an excellent job of nailing that down.
Cool.